the weekly pinch.
Hello, everyone. So today we have Audrey with us here. She is a recent graduate from McGill University, and she's a permaculture expert and an enthusiast for environment and agriculture. So welcome, Audrey, to our meeting here.
Thank
just
you.
Introduce yourself to our viewers first for a minute.
I'll introduce myself, yes?
Yeah, go ahead.
Perfect. Yeah, so as Mosin said, my name's Audrey. I graduated from McGill University in environment and food production 1 year ago. And right now I'm working for the International Institute for Sustainable Development. I've done a lot of work in permaculture before, and in the fall I'll be studying environmental management, master's in environmental management at Oxford University.
Oh, congratulations on starting at Oxford soon. That's amazing. So what will be your concentration? What will be your major and concentration within environmental management at Oxford? Is there something like that?
Well, you don't really get the opportunity to choose a concentration, but you get to choose different electives. So I'll be choosing a lot of electives related to food, specifically sustainable agriculture and environmental justice in the global agricultural system.
Oh, cool. So basically, just start with the basics. What is permaculture actually, and why should we care about it?
Of course. So people always struggle a bit with the definition of permaculture. So I like to kind of start by simplifying it down. So for me, permaculture is ethical ecological design. So 3 words, ethical ecological design. So basically it's a design science to help design solutions for human needs that are based on the observation of nature, so that they're ecological, they go even beyond sustainability to be regenerative. So essentially what sustainability kind of is that it kind of stays on one level, so you're not degrading the environment further, but if the environment is already degraded, you can't just stay at the same level. You need to kind of regenerate the environment, so improve it. And permaculture is also centered on ethical principles. So it's a science, but it's one of the only sciences that's based on ethics. So for example, in chemistry, yes, you can have, ethics in chemistry, but you can't have permaculture without its ethics. It's very essential to permaculture. So what we're trying to do is basically design systems, and the system can be anything. I know it's a very broad word, so it might be hard to understand at first, but you can design anything from a garden to a farm, but also a house, an organization, a bed. So it's kind of like engineering or design, where you can design anything, a city. But it has been used a lot in the context of food and of agriculture specifically. So most people have heard about it in that context, and I'll be talking a bit more about it mostly in that context, but just to let you know, it can really be used to design anything. And we're talking about meeting human needs, and one of the most essential human needs is food, our need to eat.
Yeah, no doubt.
And so that's why meeting that need of providing food for humans is so important, and that's why permaculture focuses on it in particular. So I'll go into why we should care about it. So of course, I think most people know that we're going through a big kind of ecological crisis right now with climate change, but also with the species loss, so losing biodiversity, as well as different other problems related to people going hungry in the world, a lot of injustices. So permaculture is basically a solutions-based approach to solve a lot of these issues all at once.
So including me, many people just confuse permaculture with a kind of gardening practice where you have a big lawn on the backyard and just grow food over there. So, what is the difference between growing food as a sustainable as a what do you call it subsistence need and the permaculture actually? So, what's the difference between like sometimes I confuse it with gardening practices. So, can you clarify that?
Of course. So it can often be used for gardening, but not every garden is a permaculture garden. So for it to be a permaculture garden, you want to have certain kind of principles. So those principles are going to be creating no waste, so always kind of reusing waste, valuing diversity. I mean, there's 12 different principles, so I'm not going to go through all of them, but having a lot of different diversity in your garden, covering the soil. So it's different things like that that kind of differentiate a regular, typical garden from a permaculture garden. But a reason why gardening is so prominent when people talk about permaculture is, again, returning to that meeting human needs. And so if everyone were to meet some of their food needs, not all, but some of their food needs through gardening when they can, that would, in an ecological way, in a way that the garden helps to replenish the land, provide habitat for biodiversity, provide food for pollinators, these kinds of things, that would help us meet our needs in a way that would regenerate the natural environment.
Yeah, and these kind of initiatives are crucial in such a scenario these days when we are going through an ecological crisis in general around the world. So, what initiatives have you done in your personal capacity for permaculture in past few years? I've heard a lot about them. So, can you explain a bit about them in detail?
Yeah, of course. So I can definitely talk about some of the initiatives that I've started, and So I'll talk about 4 of them briefly. So the first one I started was an organization called Sprouting Minds for the Food Revolution, and this was an organization that I co-founded with 3 other friends, and we created and facilitated workshops for youth about the environmental and social impacts of industrial agriculture. So we went to schools talking about different problems with industrial agriculture and different solutions, including permaculture, that we can do, and we found that educating the youth was a really interesting and useful tool.
Yeah.
Then after that, I went on to found the McGill Permaculture Club. So that's basically a club for students in a university that hosts different events, like guest speakers, like workshops, like field trips, potlucks, and so different things related to permaculture that help people learn about permaculture, but also create a kind of community and help facilitate different friendships and networking around people who are interested in permaculture. After that, I went on to co-found with Chris Robel the Macdonald Permaculture Showcase Garden. So this is a 1/4 of an acre plot of land on McGill-owned land, and that grows a bunch of different things, probably over 100 different types of edible plants, so like apples and cherries and tomatoes and hazelnuts and lots of different things. And it also includes a kind of outdoor classroom, so a space that can sit, I think, 50 people or 60. And so basically for students to come and have their classes there, and for professors to be able to teach some classes there. So that's that one. And then lastly, the last one is the MAC Regenerative Food Hub. So this one is kind of like an umbrella organization that encompasses several different sustainable food related initiatives in the town of St. Anne de Bellevue. And so this is in order to encourage kind of like a united community around regenerative food and sustainable food in specifically that area.
Yeah, that sounds really cool, especially the idea of having a classroom in the outdoors in the setting of a permaculture garden is really cool. I have actually myself been involved sometimes with the permaculture club, so I really can relate with those initiatives. Thanks for sharing with us. So I've heard that you have worked with UN and many NGOs as well internationally in South America as well. So can you share a bit of experience? How was your experience working internationally and with UN and other NGOs especially?
Yeah, of course. So I've worked with a few different organizations abroad internationally. So one of these was a permaculture farm in Belize called My Mountain Research Farm. I interned at another one in India that was kind of led by the well-known environmental activist Vandana Shiva. Some in Portugal, some in Canada, a few in England. I obtained my permaculture design certificate in the UK, and after that I conducted a study in Panama related to agriculture and climate change, and then I went on to intern for the UN World Food Program in Cuba. Which was really interesting. And so after that, overall, I've traveled and lived and interned and worked in 22 different countries.
Wow,
And
that's awesome.
recently I was in the Brazilian Amazon actually visiting a really cool permaculture farm.
Cool.
That was very interesting. And so now I'm working for the International Institute for Sustainable Development. So again, on international work, focusing on Brazil and Cuba with my current research. Brazil and Colombia with my current research. So I would say that my kind of biggest takeaway from these experiences is kind of really seeing the interconnections between so many different global and local issues, and that also realizing that to tackle our most pressing global issues that we really need everyone. So we need governments, we need NGOs, we need kind of big international organizations, farmers, teachers, we really need everyone. And it also emphasized for me the importance of global governance. So that kind of nationalism in a sense, so kind of each country focusing on itself, isn't very helpful to solve environmental issues. And for most of the social and environmental issues that we have in the world, we really need a coordinated global effort, and we really need global leadership with everyone working together in this globalized world. And that kind of isolation doesn't really help with that at the moment, but also the importance of projects being based in a very local context, and the people who are leading these projects on the ground need to truly understand the complexities of the local reality. So that kind of interesting relationship between, very local and also having the global kind of coordinated effort in mind.
So in all of these experiences, because I see you have worked in developing countries as well as in developed world as well. So where did you find more enthusiasm in the people you have been involved in? Was it in developing world like India or Colombia, or was it in developed countries like Portugal or in Canada, for say?
So where did I find like kind of the most enthusiasm?
Most enthusiastic people, yeah, about food security and permaculture and sustainability.
Well, I don't really have an answer to that. I think there was equal amounts of enthusiasm in both developed and developing countries that I was working in. It just really depended on the local context, on who you were talking to, definitely. So I think the permaculture movement and different environmental initiatives are happening in so many different places, and unfortunately the ones in developed countries have more resources to propel them further, but that doesn't mean that the people behind them don't have just as much or even more motivation and enthusiasm and energy and intelligence and just drive and everywhere.
Yeah, that's cool to know, because you should have the equal kind of enthusiasm. It doesn't matter whether it's a developing country or a developed world, because even if you have less resources, you can still do a lot with it.
Of course.
Yeah, and just and the things here, do you have any advice for young people and new graduates like me and you to get involved in this world and change something, to make a change on a personal capacity?
Yeah, of course. So the first thing I would say, which has been, so oversaid, is to really follow your passion. It sounds so cheesy, but do something that you love, that you're passionate about, and do something that pursue a career that helps other people and that contributes to making the world a better place, because later on you're going to kind of need that motivation to kind of make you feel fulfilled and give you happiness. And so that's what I would say more in general. I have some advice for specifically students, so not so much for young professionals, because I'm still a young professional, so still kind of trying to find my way myself, but specifically for students that are still perhaps in university, I would really encourage people to take full advantage of the opportunities that your university has to offer. So that's looking for every scholarship that is offered and applying to everything. Even if you don't think that you're going to get it, just apply anyways. So I probably applied to like over 100 scholarships, and I've only gotten a very small fraction of those, but that small fraction that I've gotten have helped me so much. And it's those scholarships that were offered through my university that allowed me to do all those internships abroad and all the travel abroad. It was all McGill money, and so I'm really grateful for that. So I would really say, scour all the websites, talk to professors, make connections, join the Facebook groups that are part of your university to keep hearing about these great opportunities. Actually, my last 2 jobs, which are both in my field, in the field of sustainable agriculture and environment, I found out about them through Facebook groups that were related to my university. And so it's really, kind of do those field semesters, find the university-related internships. Actually, the UN internship that I worked for, I got that through McGill and through McGill scholarship. So I would really, really say that it's such an amazing opportunity to be able to go to university, and there's so many opportunities that the university provides that most students don't know about. So to really kind of do a crazy amount of research and go know what's happening behind the scenes and find out about everything that the university has to offer, to really take advantage of that time.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences and your advice for the young professionals and students. It was a pleasure talking to you, Audrey. Hope you have a wonderful time in Oxford, and best of luck for your future initiatives. Thanks again.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me on your channel.
No worries. It was a pleasure. Have a good day. Take care. Stay safe. Bye.
Thank you. You too. Goodbye.
Bye.